Andy Johnson, we are looking today at why reading interventions sometimes do not work, why they fail. Well, the number one reason is that reading interventions are often made not by reading specialists, but by other people. This just drives me crazy. In some schools, I've heard of an educational psychologist recommending this program or that program or having the last word on what is research based. They are psychometric specialists, but they are not reading specialists. Oftentimes, special education teachers, they're direct instruction specialists, but that is not a reading specialist. The reading specialist should be making these decisions. Publishers, they're money-making specialists. Of course, they're going to say their program is the best. Of course, they're going to say that their program is research-based. Saying it so doesn't make it so. Often, there is an understanding. You understand the reading process, how the brain creates meaning with print. People think it's just sounding out words. So you get sounding out word programs versus teaching children how to create meaning or developing their ability to create meaning with print. Here's one thing you'll hear quite often. One size does not fit all. Children are not standardized products. Struggling readers are not standardized products. They come in all shapes and sizes. There is no research to support that one reading intervention supports everything. Sometimes you get a bump in scores, low-level skills, but that does not transfer to authentic reading conditions with these one-size-fits-all programs. That does not mean they are better able to create meaning with print. One size fits all. If we just had the right program, they say, then all our problems would be solved. If that were the case, the name of my next book would be Buy the Right Program. If that really worked, if there were one program. Oftentimes, reading teachers, classroom teachers are ordered implement that program with fidelity. That means follow the stinking recipe as if teaching could be reduced to an algorithm. It cannot. That's an example of educational malpractice. When you know better, you know your students better, the publisher doesn't know your students. How dare that publisher tell you how to implement your program? It's the idea that you can use the same strategies with a third grade kid in Blackwater, Arizona as you can in Edina, Minnesota. That they're standardized products. That is educational malpractice. That whole fidelity thing. Fidelity, yes, if you are conducting educational research, we have to control all the variables. Yes, you implement a program with fidelity, but that does not transfer to the real world of real human beings. Here's one: the emotional element is often unattended to. We are emotional beings. Children are even more emotional beings. They're made to feel stupid. The first thing you should say with a struggling reader: you're a struggling reader, not a big deal. We all have things we're not very good at. So, what do kids learn with these programs? They're pulled out of the classroom and sent down to a special room, made to feel stupid because they focus on low-level skills. Well, they learn that they're not very good at reading, and they learn to hate reading with these programs that are just boring, and I hate it. They associate reading with something bad. So you can see this when you come to work with a struggling reader. You see, oh my gosh, here's that reading thing again, and you can see them freeze up. They get this splintered curriculum often, where they get one thing in their reading class, they're sent someplace else, they get something else in the special class that doesn't look anything like what's going on in the classroom. And they're sent down to the special ed program, that special ed room, Children make little progress in special ed settings. Little progress is made. Richard Allerton has had lots of research on that. It's a Humpty Dumptian approach. See all the little parts, and we're going to put them all together. That's what reading is. You have this scope and sequence chart. See, and you just teach all the little skills in that order. That is a scope and nonsense chart, not a scope and sequence chart. That's not how human beings learn. As well, we have direct instruction specialist. Because you're an expert in direct instruction does not mean you're a reading specialist. And direct instruction is important. It is one pedagogical strategy. It should not be a method that you teach all children the same way, follow the algorithm. You cannot direct instruction your way to literacy proficiency. You cannot. Students are not standardized products. There's no one-size-fits-all program, method, or approach. There are, however, knowledgeable teachers with toolbox filled with research-based strategy. We must empower them to be teachers, to teach, to make the decisions that they know are best for their students. So what should a reading intervention look like? Very good. First of all, it should focus on the specific reading deficit areas. That's what RTI tells us. That's what IEPs tell us. There are 3 deficit areas: fluency, comprehension, identification. Not all readers have deficits in all areas. So we need to find out what are the deficit areas. It could be all 3, it could be just one. If a kid is struggling with fluency, why in the dickens, pardon my language, would you focus on comprehension? Similarly, if a kid is struggling with comprehension, why would you focus on word identification? That should be word identification. Made a mistake. That shows the importance of having a good diagnostic for reading. The best I found is some form of an informal reading inventory or a qualitative reading inventory or a diagnostic reading assessment. This is where you listen to the child read. You look for meaningful miscues. You do a miscue analysis. You get a sense of exactly how they're creating meaning with print. Standardized test data? Not so much. I have yet to see a standardized test. You look at the results and you go, oh, this is exactly what I should do on Monday. I see where the child is on standardized tests, how far they are away from average on these reading sub-skills. But okay, so what? What should I do? So here's the thing. Reading interventions should not replace good classroom instruction. There are no super secret special strategies that only super secret specially trained teachers should do. There is good reading instruction, and interventions should build upon the good stuff that is happening in a reading class. 6 elements of a reading intervention: writing of some sort. Reading and writing strengthen each other. They develop the syntactic cueing. Syntax is grammar in word order. You are putting words together to create meaning. Writing reinforces letter patterns, word families, sight words. Now, writing should not be these huge writing workshop things, 3 to 10 minutes at most. With emergent and beginning readers, I use the language experience approach, where they have an experience or they tell me about something, write 2 to 5 sentences. They practice reading words and experiences from their real experience. That is the language experience approach, and you can do phonics here. Word work, if the deficit is related to word identification, if and only if. And word work should include large unit phonics, where you're looking for letter patterns, analytic phonics, where you analyze words there, find the word with the d sound, and synthetic phonics, where you put sounds together to create words. All 3. If you are doing just synthetic phonics, you are falling far short of what should be. Word building activities, or sometimes they're called onset-rhymes. That helps you develop the word patterns. That's a form of large unit phonics. Word sorts, word discriminations, these are all good. These are all strategies. Which one should you use? Well, Look at the child, see is what is working. One side doesn't fit all. These should be within a meaningful context to the greatest extent possible, meaning you need to reduce the instances where children see words out of context. And you need to reinforce the word identification strategies taught as part of classroom instruction. All right, word identification is different from word recognition. That distinction is not made often. Word identification is I see a word, it's in my lexicon, I don't recognize it, so I need to find a strategy to recognize that word. All right, word identification is you see it and you automatically, or word recognition, you automatically recognize. These are different. I'll go over word identification in another video. Cloze and maze activities. There's a variety of things you can do or types of these activities, but that's how you develop the ability to use context or the semantic cueing system. I was working with a student last week and I taught her to say blank if she doesn't know the word, or have a word with only the first letter, blank. That student skips over the word and automatically recognizes or can identify that word, versus when the student was just using phonics, students slowed down. That slowed down the student. Does that mean you don't teach phonics? Certainly not. But you teach word and close and look at context strategies, skip the word, say blank and continue. Fluency activities, if that is a deficit area, there's a plethora of reading, repeated reading activities you can use. Scaffolded oral reading, which is called another name for the neurological impress method. Another video for that. But these are fluency activities if fluency is a problem, if they are reading, choppy reading, word by word reading. If comprehension is a problem area, well, you need to use and teach cognitive processes related to comprehension and high-level thinking. Here's something. Comprehension sheets rarely enhance comprehension. Comprehension worksheets are usually remembering worksheets or go back and find what happened worksheets. Remembering is different from comprehending. Usually when you're teaching comprehension, you have a pre, during, and after reading activities. And of course, self-selected reading practice. This is probably the most important part, where you find good books and children are allowed to immerse themselves in an area of interest. Now imagine, if you would, if you were trying to learn how to play the piano and you never had time to actually practice playing the piano, or learn how to play racquetball and you never got to practice. We should call it reading practice instead of reading class. Children should have lots and lots, a minimum of 20 minutes a day of independent reading. If they can pick an area of interest, they develop expertise, they build conceptual knowledge and vocabulary knowledge, they can read better, develop that ability in a passion of theirs. Self-selected reading, it facilitates reading accuracy, comprehension, word identification, fluency, all this good stuff. With severely struggling readers, that means you need to have high-low books, high interest, low readability, or high, very low books. With a reader, you don't want to have what I call ducky books. They're say a sixth grader is reading at the first grade level. You bring out a ducky book or a book at the first grade emotional level. That sixth grader does not want to read it. That sixth grader will react very negatively. All right. Now, some people say, Andy, or Dr. Johnson, or you silly bald man, you need to teach phonics. Absolutely. Everybody believes phonics instruction should be part of a reading curriculum. It's not the what of phonics instruction when you're working with struggling readers. It's the how and how much of phonics instruction in which there are differing views. Sadly, a lot of these intervention programs, they just teach phonics, direct instruction of phonics. Phonics is the answer. If you teach only low-level skills, you get only low-level learning. That's why when students are immersed in special ed programs that teach only low-level skills, they tend to stay there. You are impeding the reading progress. don't do that. Meaning-based teachers is and that's what I teach. That's what I do. We use very direct and very explicit skills instruction. Very direct because it's in the context in which it is used. It's not on a worksheet over there. Skills instruction directly. That's actually more direct instruction in this silly stuff where they're practicing words out of any meaningful context. Just some ideas what to do if your reading intervention is not working.